In all my years of playing through Fallout 3 since I first picked it up in 2009, I've never once actually considered melee weapons to be a viable option for playing this game. And whilst I still don't feel this is an unfair assessment of the franchise, I definitely feel like the Fallout games are definitely catered more for gun use and long range fighting. To put it bluntly, you're going to have a much easier time playing this game if you use guns as opposed to melee combat, but today I wanted to do something I've never done before. I wanted to actually try and use melee combat. And while I'm aware there are some fantastic melee weapons in Fallout 3, I wanted to try it with something so basic and overlooked. Something that seems so intrinsically worthless in of itself that you wouldn't even consider using it as a viable option. Or at least until something better comes along. So today we're going to find out, can you beat Fallout 3 with just a baseball bat? So I thought quite a clever name for my character on this run would be Bruce Wayne. Let me know in the comments if you can work out why I called myself that. I didn't pay any attention to my character's aesthetics because society's definition of attractive is BS. The way I see it, everyone's beautiful in their own way, even if you happen to be a psychopath with a baseball bat. So once the dad of the year left his toddler in an unlocked playpen, which I escaped the second he left, I head over to the Your Special book to choose my attributes. So realistically speaking, perception and agility are useless for this run. I always go for high intelligence so you get more skill points every time you level up. I also went for strength and endurance. Strength will allow me to swing my weapons harder and do more damage, and endurance will give me more health to actually survive this run. So skipping ahead 9 years, and it turns out that Vault 101 uses child labour. Amata actually gives you something useful here for this run, a copy of Grodnak the Barbarian, which will increase your melee skill by 1 point. Stanley also gives you a baseball cap, which will increase your melee skill by 5 points when worn, so that seems like it's going to be pretty useful too. So 6 years later, it's time to take my GOAT exam. I first pick up the medicine bobblehead from Dad's desk in Vault 101. There's only 2 opportunities to get this, so I might as well grab it now. I chose barter, medicine and melee weapons as my main tag skills. I feel like they're going to be the most useful to me because I'm going to need a lot of caps to buy a lot of stim packs. I'm also going to need melee weapons for obvious reasons, and medicine because I'm going to take a lot of damage. So after my rude awakening and Amata's hysterical rambling, I was finally on my way to escape Vault 101. And there, right in front of me, right at the start of the game, was the only object I would ever need. Also, I don't know whatever happened to the baseball cap, but I'm absolutely devastated that I forgot it. So dealing with the vault guards and the rad roaches is pretty straightforward and easy as expected. After all, this is a tutorial. I actually found this section a little bit easier than if I was using guns because I felt that at such a low level, I normally miss when I'm shooting. I also made sure to take any equipment I could carry as I would need stuff to sell later on. Cowering with fear and obviously intimidated by my baseball bat, the overseer handed over the password to escape Vault 101. So after Shawshanking my way out of Vault 101, it was time to level up for the first time. I poured all of my points into barter to start with, and I chose the Swift Learner perk, giving me a 10% experience bonus every time I would gain experience. Before I even reached Megaton, I headed straight to Silver's house in Springvale and bashed her head in to get some caps. Then my next stop was Megaton. I wanted to get the strength bobblehead from Lucas Sims' house. Unfortunately, I didn't have the lockpicking skill, but I could pickpocket the key. So I broke into his house and took the strength bobblehead, putting my strength up to 10. Next, I sold all the junk I had so far and bought any stim packs that I could from Moira. So, I actually had the necessary caps to pay Colin Moriarty, but I decided instead to steal his password and hack his computer to get the information I needed as to the whereabouts of my father. I did this for experience more than anything, as I thought I would need a lot of experience. So next I decided to try and fix the pipes in Megaton, hoping it would get me some more experience and hopefully some caps. Unfortunately, I didn't have the required repair skill. So nearly always the first thing I do in Fallout 3 is jump in the Potomac River and head straight to Rivet City. This is because there's an intelligence bobblehead which will put my intelligence up to 10, giving me the maximum bonuses every time I level up. I met a thirsty beggar just outside of Rivet City who was asking me for some water, which I was all too happy to oblige. By which I of course mean I stoved his head in with a baseball bat and threw him into the river. Hopefully this would be enough water for him. There you are, Carlos, all the water you can ever drink. Let it not be said that Bruce Wayne is far from charitable. And if you just skipped ahead in the video and you don't get the Bruce Wayne joke, shame on you. Shame. So I headed straight into Rivet City and grabbed the intelligence bobblehead. I actually wanted to do the main storyline for experience. I felt I was really going to need to be quite a high level, so I did a few side questing and stuff as well. But if I talked to Dr. Lee, I'm pretty sure that would have skipped out a good chunk of the game. Then I saw something, a beacon of light in this dark, depressing wasteland, something I'd coveted my entire life, a baseball bat. So while I wasn't able to steal it, I was able to buy another baseball bat, as well as trade some equipment for stim packs as well. So I did feel like I was going to need to gain a few levels for this challenge, so I decided the best place to start would be the Wasteland Survival Guide. The first mission was to go to the Super Duper Mart and recover some medicine and food supplies, if at all there was any. This was extremely difficult. All of the raiders had guns. And not just any guns, but shotguns and automatic rifles. A few of them did actually have melee weapons, but there was that much firepower coming at me, I really struggled to get through this. Once the room was clear, I was able to progress to level 3. I put my points into barter, repair and melee skill, and I chose the second perk of Swift Learner, giving me 20% experience bonus. Upon returning to Megaton, I was also able to now repair the broken pipes before returning to Moira. So after drinking some irradiated water, I headed back to Rivet City as Moira was out of caps. Rivet City is possibly the greatest trading post in the entire Capital Wasteland. They just have better equipment and better caps, and it's a great place to buy stim packs. Then it was time to continue on with the Wasteland Survival Guide. As I was heading up to the minefield, I came across a Mirelurk. Now, dealing with Mirelurks when you have a gun is hard enough, but with a bat it is absolutely ridiculous. I think it took roughly about a minute to kill this thing, and you can see how long it took with it speeded up. I also came across a large group of raiders who relied mainly on melee weapons, so we had a little bit of a fair fight where I was actually able to use block. However, one of the things I was quickly learning from this challenge is that fighting was going to take an excessively long time. Eventually I was able to reach the minefield. Now this quest is good for two reasons. The first is that you can disarm the mines to get caps. The second is that you get experience from disarming the mines, so it's win-win. Now I was forced to get up close and personal to the sniper while I was trying to collect mines. This was really difficult to do, but eventually I was able to take him down. I was able to sell all the equipment and the mines that I got from the minefield and got some more stim packs. I had about 1,000 caps now, so things were going pretty well. Next it was off to Galaxy News Radio. Now getting through the tunnels was an absolute nightmare. The ghouls were plentiful and the roamers were insanely powerful. It took so many hits to kill these things. Normally, I'm used to just 1 or 2 headshots to take down the ghouls, but this was an absolute nightmare, swinging repeatedly. This was also damaging the condition of my bat. Another problem I found with this challenge was that I wasn't able to destroy gun turrets that were mounted on the roof. There are computers you can use to disable them, but I didn't yet have the skill necessary to do it, so I was forced to run past them. The Galaxy News Radio compound wasn't too difficult because there's lots of Brotherhood of Steel paladins with power armor. The Behemoth was a bit of a trouble because I couldn't really fight him at all due to the fact I couldn't use the Fat Man. I did try at least to get a few swings on him, but I just wasn't successful and the Brotherhood managed to take him down in the end. After that it was off to C3 Dog. Now this is why I wanted to do the main storyline without skipping anything, because you get a lot of experience and I was able to level up. I put pretty much every point I had into melee, and I put a few points into barter, choosing the third perk for Swift Learner, giving me now 30% bonus experience. So the super mutants inside the Museum of Technology took quite a while to take down. It's because the baseball bat just doesn't do enough damage. By the time I hit level 6, my medicine skill was really quite high. So I decided to try my hand at the science skill, and I also took the toughness perk, which can give me up to an 85% resistance to damage. So after getting nearly absolutely destroyed by a super mutant brute, I was finally able to get the dish. You can see here just how long it takes to take down a super mutant brute, all the while they're shooting at you. This was really not as easy as I thought it was going to be. So after taking the dish, I headed back outside the museum, and well, I didn't really fancy fighting all of the super mutants in the trenches, so I ran straight to the monument and let the Brotherhood of Steel deal with the muties while I repaired the Galaxy News radio station. Three Dog pointed me in the direction of Rivet City, and I got 520 experience for my troubles, so it was definitely more than worth it. Before anything else, I would have to see Shrapnel to get him to repair my items and sell my assorted crap to him and buy more stim packs. After seeing Dr. Lee for the first time in many years, she sent me away to the rotunda at the monument. I actually had to fight my way through a lot of super mutants on my own, but due to the sheer amount of stim packs I had now, it wasn't actually too bad. I successfully managed to make it to the rotunda where I was able to grab Dad's recordings telling me where he was going. Now I actually did die in the subsequent fight because there are some super mutants in the rotunda and they absolutely destroyed me. Eventually though, I was able to make it to Tranquility Lane. Now I didn't talk to Dr. Braun, I didn't do anything that wouldn't involve me using a baseball bat, so I activated his failsafe right at the start and got the hell out of the Matrix. When I did hit level 7, I chose the Child at Heart perk. This was going to help me with Little Lamplight a lot later. Activating his failsafe basically involves pressing certain things in a specific order that will initiate the Chinese invasion program, which will kill all residents of Tranquility Lane. This actually is viewed as a good karmic act for some reason. Anyway, just like that, I was ready to level up again. I poured some more points into repair and took the strong back perk so I could carry more stuff to sell later on. So the last time I came to the rotunda, I wasn't able to destroy the mounted gun turret on the roof. This is because I wasn't able to destroy it with a baseball bat, so I opted to hack it with the computer terminal and simply turn it off. I thought it might be an interesting idea to turn the turret back on and see if it would attack and kill the scientists. And whilst the turret certainly was attacking them as I had hoped, it wasn't able to actually kill them. I'm guessing this is due to their necessity later in the timeline, so that was a bit of a shame. So as expected, this is where the game got really hard. The Enclave are extremely powerful. Well, they shouldn't really be, but when you're only using a baseball bat, they take a very long time to kill, especially when they're shooting at you from places you can't get to with laser weapons. I think I used roughly about 20 stim packs just fighting my way through the Enclave in power armor. It really was difficult, especially with Dr. Lee fleeing all the time. I wasn't even able to talk to her until every single Enclave soldier was taken down. I actually tried to convince Gaza to stay behind and die, but when that didn't work, I had to go and talk to Dr. Lee to give her stim packs. Unfortunately, she was fleeing, so I had to make sure that every Enclave soldier was taken out before I could even continue. I wasn't even sure if killing Gaza was an option. I was also able to find another baseball bat in these tunnels, which was really helpful because the condition of mine were deteriorating quickly and I was afraid that soon they would actually break. Eventually we managed to escape and head to the Citadel where I got some power armor training, and then it was off to Little Lamplight. After a brief conversation with the mayor and using my Child at Heart perk to tell him that his face looked like a butt, we immediately became best friends and he let me in without me having to do any of Evergreen Mills. Now that the hard part was over, it was just a case of dealing with hordes and hordes of super mutant brutes. Now, I'm unsure if it was because I was so late in the game or my character's level, but most of the super mutants I was dealing with seemed to be the brutes. This one in particular cost me a lot of trouble because he had a missile launcher. One shot would easily cripple my limbs and could potentially knock me off the ramp that I needed to get up to actually attack him. This happened several times and I wasted a lot of med packs. I came so close to dying in this section. He was absolutely destroying me. So by the time I finally did get up to him, surprise surprise, he was a brute. And I think I spent about a minute trying to kill this guy. All the while, I was slowly destroying my own baseball bat. By the time I completed picking up the trail, I was able to level up. I decided that it was about time I maxed out my melee skill. And I also took the Here and Now perk, which is something I never ever do. Now the Here and Now perk will give you an extra level straight away. This time I decided to max out my medicine skill. I put the rest of the points into barter. Then I chose the intense training perk and put the point into luck. So fighting my way through the reactor chamber was actually very difficult. This is because I only had one baseball bat and it was starting to get to a very low condition. Things were getting dangerous to the point I might not even be able to fight at all anymore. See, the problem I had was that because I was doing such little damage, the super mutant brutes were taking a lot of hits. Now every time you hit, it will degrade your weapon slightly, so I was kind of overusing the baseball bat. You can see here just how wrecked my baseball bat actually was. It got to the point that I just completely decided that fighting was no longer an option. I quickly tried to rescue Forks and kind of hid behind him while he finished off anything that was left. It seems like Forks is extremely overpowered, or maybe it's just because you might need him for getting the Gex, so he's not really able to die. I'm not actually sure and I haven't tested this, but that's my theory anyway. So by the time I got captured by the Enclave, I was able to hit level 12. I put all of my points into speech because I wanted to make President Eden self-destruct himself. I also took the fast metabolism perk, giving extra points to my stim packs. So because my bat was in such poor condition, I wasn't able to actually fight any of the Enclave soldiers on the way to President Eden. I just had to run past them until the point where the sentry bots took over. By the time I finally did reach President Eden, I decided that I didn't want to live in a world run by Skynet, so I convinced him to self-destruct. I took the FEV virus as well. I was then forced to basically just run past all of the Enclave soldiers that weren't fighting the sentry bots. This is because my bat was very close to breaking. I really couldn't afford to fight anymore. Due to my karma, I was able to get Forks on side and he followed me to the Citadel. I found it really funny that I was able to walk into the Brotherhood of Steel Citadel wearing Enclave power armor followed by a super mutant and nobody tried to attack us. Next up was the obligatory follow the Iron Giant quest until you reach the Rotunda. You don't actually have to do anything here except hide behind Liberty Prime, so it was pretty easy. Wearing the sexy sleepwear, I took a cocktail of ant pheromones and whiskey to boost my charisma to 10, at which point I convinced Colonel Autumn to stand down. And after sending Forks into the radiation chamber, we successfully completed Fallout 3 using just a baseball bat. Well, that'll just about do it for today's video, guys. I just want to thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed this challenge. It's not a challenge that I'm used to, as I've never played Fallout 3 using melee weapons. Again, I still don't feel like this game is properly designed for melee, but I really have enjoyed this challenge. Please like, subscribe and all that good stuff. Leave any comments if you do have any, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.